Staying on, you are on the news feed. Now, on day one of his testimony there, hashtag Jacob Zuma received 4 million impressions across all social media platforms and reached 1.9 million social media users. Now, somebody who has a handle on these issues and has been monitoring our social media traction for us on the former President Jacob Zuma's testimony is Newsroom Africa's digital content creator, Wandile Mhlongo. Wandile, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, that's a lot. 4 million impressions.
Yes.
Is that something that you have been seeing? I mean, if you look at some of the biggest news stories since the beginning of the year, is this the first kind of impression that you've seen reaching this level?
No, certain other trends have reached this type of impressions before. But what's interesting about this one is, I guess, the difference in views, you know, with the different impressions, where if we also look at it, if I just dive in a little bit more, of those 4 million people that, you know, that saw it and the 1.9 million that the hashtag Jacob Zuma reached with, is that 46% were actually neutral on the Jacob Zuma issue. 13% were positive and 41% were negative. And this kind of just shows us the sentiment that people have towards Jacob Zuma. But today, things have changed a little bit. Yeah. Today, people are a lot more neutral. There's 59% going towards the neutral side of things. 22% are looking at positive, and 17.2% are negative today. So, which is a drastic decrease.
How do you measure that negative or positive sentiment? What are the metrics? What do you?
It's in terms of certain keywords that are used within, for example, within a tweet. Things like not believing him, things like, for example, yesterday, one of the big ones was the fact that Jacob Zuma seemed to forget a lot of things, you know. He used to remember the things that happened in the 90s about the spies, but, you know, when they were asking him about more recent events, he couldn't quite remember. And that essentially influenced the more negative parts of it, because now that we're looking at it, like, you know, how seriously can we take, you know, his testimony? Yeah. So yes, that's one of the things.
And in terms of the positivity, I mean, okay, you said by and large neutral today, but yes. The positive component, what are the positives that they have taken?
The positives are actually people coming out and saying that they support Jacob Zuma. People saying that what he's saying is essentially, it's almost due, you know, it's about time, you know, because Jacob Zuma has been saying for a long time that, you know, the day that he does speak out, you know, a lot of things are going to change in the political sphere in South Africa. Yeah. And we essentially saw that even yesterday in terms of how people were reacting to it, you know, but today there are a little bit more positive responses to him, which personally I suspect because of the video that was posted on social media this morning by not by Thabo Mbeki, but someone posted a video of Thabo Mbeki where Thabo Mbeki was more or less confirming the issue of spies within South Africa. So people essentially opened up and be like, you know, what he's talking about might actually be true.
So there was, of course, this gathering where former President Thabo Mbeki was addressing a group of, I think it was Gathered ANC members.
Gathered ANC.
And he says, no, there is some credibility to this thing. And the organization should do an investigation as to these spies that have infiltrated the organization. And what are people saying to that sentiment as expressed?
People essentially now wondering, the question is now being raised, who actually runs South Africa? You know, if Jacob Zuma is saying that there are spies that are even in high positions within the ANC and within government, the question is then, who did we vote for in power? Who is there? Who's representing us? Because remember, when there's spies, this is a field that is not seen to the ordinary public. You know, we don't know who the spies are. Yeah. So the question is, okay, so then what is happening in South Africa? Who owns South Africa? And a lot of people, even within the sentiments and within the tweets, people were popping up names like the Ruperts, you know, the Oppenheimers, which was also quite interesting. But you know, it's social media.
So what are some of the other keywords that you're seeing? I mean, spy, I'm sure, is particularly a keyword. Rupert is another keyword. Zuma is another keyword.
Another keyword. Zondo Commission is also one of the big keywords there. Today, a lot of Gupta, today's testament, Gupta's was quite up on the keywords. But it's just all basically around the Zondo Commission. And personally, we do anticipate that actually this whole week, it's just going to be, in terms of the first two trends, because even yesterday, it was Jacob Zuma hashtag that was trending #1 in South Africa. #2 was the state capture inquiry. Today, once again, we see it again, hashtag Zuma testifies is trending at #1. And state capture inquiry at #2. So we anticipate that that's going to essentially be the entire conversation on social media the whole week until really Jacob Zuma finishes, hopefully on Friday.
Now, Wandile, when you look at the breakdown of the people who are, of course, engaging with this content in terms of females, in terms of males, and in terms of age, what do you find?
In terms of female and males, we do find that there are more males engaging. 78% actually, as a matter of fact, are engaging more, which are being males, which are engaging more, which is essentially another whole conversation by itself, and it is a lot more millennials, so it is the younger people, which some could say is a positive thing, because now the youth are more invested in terms of what is happening in South Africa and the future for South Africa.
And are these individuals who are political, or are they?
No, of course we do. There are, so for example, yesterday, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi from EFF, his tweets actually got the most amounts of engagements. And today we're still doing some of the data on that, but we will let our viewers know later on in the day in terms of today which has been the most engagements. But in terms of the people that are responding to the tweets, it's mostly political leaders that are tweeting, and people are engaging with that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, you would see the various implicated parties.
Yes.
For example, Fikile Mbalula being mentioned as having visited the Ruperts, and the responses to that. I think Reddy Club is one who's also quite active on social media, who has received some kind of reaction to what she has been saying.
Yes.
And overall, are there other stories? I mean, there's lots happening in the country, including ones coming out of the PIC, that are overtaking that conversation?
Currently, no. Yeah. Currently, no. The one conversation which we did see yesterday come through and sneak through is Mark Batchelor, the former Bafana player who did pass away. But that was the only one that was really competing in terms of hashtag Jacob Zuma and state capture inquiry. So as I said, for this week, it's just pretty much going to be state capture inquiry. And we're eager to see the more stats regarding it, and to really give a broader perspective of what people on social media are saying regarding it.
Wandile, much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
That's our Wandile Mhlongo. He is, of course, Newsroom Africa's digital content creator, looking at the engagements on social media when it comes to this issue of the testimony of President Jacob Zuma. Former President Jacob Zuma testifies at the state capture.